I'd say Stop Killing Games has been kind of on a warpath. Like, he did a video, like, here's another fucking video right here about him being invited to the EU Parliament. And I'm just going to give this a watch, give my opinion about this. It makes sense for him to go for the EU in this because EU has a lot of consumer protections that are just, that exist, but there's several loopholes, but he's not really imposing any laws in particular. He, he just wants the companies to apply the laws that exist because now we know that a lot of companies, or let's take games for example, are just not following those now. Here in America, we only really care about how a product is sold, not exactly what happens to it after it's sold, which is sort of like an old, like, early 2000s idea of like copyright. The laws were written by people who probably aren't even alive anymore, but there hasn't really been any update into this day and age because in this day and age, technology has advanced. Like, how many things that you use have a terms of service? Like, people have like smart phones, smart fridges, smart locks, rings, smart doorbells, smart cars, right? How many of these things have quote unquote terms of service you gotta sign that if you don't agree with it, you can't use the products you bought? Like, you have your smart car, right? And say it has some sort of recording feature. And the argument is for like safety and shit, but who the fuck knows if it's not listening in on conversations? Obviously it's taking your data, but say, yeah, said something, right? You're chilling with the homies and you say a slur, and whoever the fuck Indian is listening in on you says, oh, hey, you said a slur in the car, and then they shut the car off. Like, there was a case of someone who was delivering to a house, and that person claimed the individual said a slur in their house, and the company for like the Ring doorbell and all that shut it off. Like, it was a one-off case. Now, obviously, he was able to prove, yeah, no, didn't happen. But it's like, do you want that type of headache? Like, who the fuck wants a situation like that of something you bought but you don't actually really own it because you have this terms of service that you know you didn't read, they know you didn't read, and but they can apply it however way they see fit. And again, a lot of terms of services are written in ways for you not to understand. You, the plebeian, is written in ways that only lawyers can look at it and can interpret it, unless you have, like, I don't know, Chat GPT interpret it for you, which is a perfect tool for it. This is kind of how games are sold here. Like, a lot of games are sold as quote unquote services, even though you pay up front. Like Anthem, like, you pay for the game, but then for any reason they can shut down the game and the money you spent is just lost. EA is rife with this, but they still do it. Like, how many games from EA did you buy, like Battle Force and that they just shut down? And it's like, well, they just give you the fucking finger. And again, he's not really saying they can't do this. He's like, okay, well, you need some level of end of life plans, which is completely reasonable. It's like, okay, what do you plan on doing when the service is up? Because a lot of companies don't have that. They just say, "Oh, we can terminate it for any reason, for whatever reason," and that's just the way it is. So I'm gonna try not to like pause a lot, but a lot of things may be said that I want to give my
Honestly,
input
we are trying to prevent video games from being destroyed. Um, we see video games not only as part of our culture, but also as products, and in both cases, worthy of preservation. But unfortunately, the practices in the video games industry are hindering both of these and threatening video games as a medium. What we hope to achieve today for you is to explain the problem, what we have done to try to fix it at least, and why we believe new regulation or new rules are necessary. Just as it was mentioned in the beginning, we are representing European customers and consumers who have not had a voice on this issue for a very, very long time, and therefore we are very, very thankful that you are hearing us out today. And I would say that we could start with the slide deck, and I would then hand over to my colleague Ross Scott.
Hello, I am the founder of the Stop Killing Games consumer
My
movement,
man.
which has many shared goals with the initiative.
and this is the difference between how the Japanese view their products, their IPs, their copyrights, and that Americans view it. Because the Japanese view it as cultural hallmarks. It's like if a developer decides to shut down a game, according to the Japanese, yeah, that's fine. Like they should be able to shut it down, and no one should be able to emulate it. No one should be able to buy it again because it's their cultural hallmark. And if someone does decide to emulate it, oh, well, you're stealing from the artist or from the developer. They've gotten completely reamed by this because, again, Americans view like IPs more like products. Like, I give you money, you give me thing. And if I can't buy thing from you, maybe I should be able to get it another way. And there's good and bad to both ways of thinking. But I think for the Japanese, like the spreading of their culture through their entertainment, like there's a reason why almost every single company, mainstream media is going after the Japanese man because they clearly know how to make better art than the corporate American, like I call them the corporate American gaming industry because it's how they think. Like they're the same people that are against the man until they became the man, and now they are the man. They want to have this country club of people who don't actually really play games. They're just thrown in these positions. But the Japanese man puts in blood, sweat, and tears to chisel that titty just for us filthy gaijin, and you can tell within the art. Now, is there some weird art that comes from Japan? Absolutely. But look, I'm going to be a pragmatist about this. If you have a problem with that, make something better. The big thing is AI, but the Japanese man don't got to worry about AI. For all their faults on the copyright argument, they don't have to worry about AI replacing them. The corporate, localizer, the corporate games journalist does because the game developers do because they can't make good products. They can't compete, and they don't want to.
I'd like to clarify what it means to destroy a video game. The second slide. When we say a game has been destroyed, what we mean is a publisher has permanently disabled all copies of it that have been sold so no one can ever play them again. It would be like removing every single copy of a book or film in existence, effectively erasing it from the culture. The way this practice works is first a publisher sells a copy of a video game. However, it has been designed so that it must connect to the publisher in order to function. This acts as a potential kill switch. The customer is also given no information when the game will stop working, even though the publisher has decided to assume that responsibility. Then, after an undisclosed length of time, the publisher disables all existing copies of the game but keeps the customer's money. The publisher also enacts countermeasures to ensure repairing the game. To ensure repairing the game is almost impossible, even for experienced software professionals. From this point,
yeah, and this is what happens when a lot of like the source code gets either completely deleted or is shoved on a flash drive and shelved. It's like there's no real way for people to reproduce it in a legal sense without infringing on EA's fucking copyright of games they don't sell anymore.
Onward, no customer can ever run the purchase again. Besides destroying the game, this practice is also subverting customer expectations. Most video games can work indefinitely, which has been the customer standard for half a century, including ones that connect to the internet. Alternately, a small number of video games operate as subscription services, but those inform the customer exactly when their access ends at the time of payment. The games we're referring to do no such thing. It's a bit of miscommunication. They almost always contain terms stating they can end at any time for any reason. What this means is customers have no real protections when they buy games like these. They are unable to keep them, and they are not informed when they will end. This behavior would be outrageous in other industries. If you bought a book in a store, the publisher cannot come into your home and take back your book at will. If you bought an insurance policy, you would be informed when that policy ends, not that the seller could end it at any time for any reason but still keep your money. The games being sold this way are operating similar to scams. Publishers know customers expect video games to last, so they sell these in the same way as ones that can work forever, as a one-time purchase with no expiry date, then price them the same. Publishers know that if customers were informed exactly when they plan to disable their games, that would reduce sales, since the longevity of a game affects how much customers are willing to pay.
Yeah, and then you have games that just you can buy today, like back when GameStop was a thing. Like I bought 99 Nights, and to this day I can play it. You know, I can whip out the old 360 and play it. Like the expectation is that you buy something, you keep that thing and can play it whenever the fuck you want. Hell, I don't care if I'm like 90 years old, shitting my goddamn grandpa diaper. If I want to whip out 99 Nights, I can play it. You know, and a lot of people, it's like they don't really think that far ahead because, like you said, the expectation is there, but that's not the case. And you can argue it's to protect their copyright, but I mean, Grand Theft Auto 1 has been free for like 20 years. Do you think that damages the copyright of Rockstar with Grand Theft Auto 6? I mean, I don't think it does. I think they're fine. I think they're going to make money on that game, you know, regardless of my personal opinion. So that's just not really true. And again, people don't understand what companies will do if you point these out. Like, they are just supposed to enforce the status quo and to not cede any ground, because that's why they hire lawyers. Like, to make no mistake, right? They like this system. You know, they don't have to put any more time, money, and effort into preserving games that they sold to the customer. So if you're telling them, hey, you know, you kind of do need to do this, obviously they're going to be against that.
The industry is trying to have it both ways, finding ways to say they're selling you a game that they're not selling you. This creates confusion for everyone involved and is part of why it's taking customers so long to get exposure on this practice. The legality is also unsettled. Earlier, members of Parliament assisted us in asking questions to the EU Commission about how legal the terms and game license agreements were, especially being able to terminate them at any time for any reason. The Commission stated Directive 9313 EEC prohibits unfair terms causing a significant imbalance in the parties' rights and obligations to the detriment of consumers. The Commission also recommended consumers file complaints with businesses across member states through the European Consumer Centers Network. In 2024, we had volunteers across the majority of EU countries submitting complaints against the French company Ubisoft for disabling the game The Crew. The responses we received from the ECC network were extremely inconsistent. Some officials said there was nothing they could do. Others said the company was required to run the game indefinitely, which is unrealistic. But the majority stated there was no clear regulation on this practice. We were independently able to get thousands of complaints submitted to consumer agencies in France and Germany, but there still has been no decision on them on the legality either. To the best of our knowledge, no one in the EU has ever been compensated for this and hundreds of other titles.
Yeah, and a lot of it is nebulous. You also gotta understand, terms of service is not legally binding. Like, they can have whatever the fuck they want in a terms of service. If the law says no, you're not allowed to do this, you can just throw it out the fucking window. But most laws just sort of gloss over the selling, or like not really the selling, the maintenance of like services that you pay for, subscriptions and all of that. You know, they give just this blanket like ruling because some 70-year-old lawyer don't want to have to deal with some fucking video games. I mean, they probably don't want to have to deal with anything, really. I mean, you're 70. You know, how old do you think these lawmakers are? Like, half of them, games didn't even exist. Or at least they didn't exist in this state when they were alive. Like, what people want is not even really new laws, but they want the existing laws to just be applied. Or, okay, maybe, you know, redefine laws that exist around copyright. Because as you've seen and as you've been going over it, it treats the consumer like they're the bad guy. Like, I buy a fucking game, God forbid, and I'm the enemy, and there's all these things about how all the legality against me for just playing a game.
In short, governments in EU countries are not sure how to handle this situation, and customers are overwhelmingly not being compensated for the loss of their purchases. It is an ideal situation for clear regulation. This is not a new practice. It started approximately 2005 and began negatively impacting customers for them around 2010 onward. However, it often affects a minority of customers whose complaints can get lost in the system. It wasn't until a large case affecting millions that any attempts to get government attention were possible, and there still is no answer. The EU Commission says this must be handled on a case-by-case basis, but this practice is extremely widespread. Future slides. We have formed an amateur study examining over 1,100 video games that require a connection to the publisher. The majority of these have been deliberately disabled by the publisher, with many of the rest still at risk of being destroyed. Under the strictest interpretation of what it means to disable a game, the study found that out of over 400 titles, publishers disable a customer's purchase 93.5% of the time when ending support. This business practice is responsible for more destruction to the medium than anything else by an enormous margin.
And again, publishers have so much fucking influence. Like, even the studios themselves at certain points are at the mercy of the publisher. And the point of the publisher is like, I mean, technically the point of a publisher for a book, to sell the book, to give as much exposure to it as possible. But in these cases, like with EA, it's like they hold like the entire product in their hands and they can completely destroy it at any fucking time. Like, at any time they're not making as much money as possible, they can just take the product away. And that's really the issue. But, I mean, I don't know if that's what he's trying. Like, he's not, I guess, trying to go after publishers in particular and try to regulate them. I mean, because obviously contracts and shit were signed, but like, what about this contract between the publisher and company and the fucking consumer? You know, the gamer. Like, this is why games and like any type of entertainment is shit. It's because you have a product, you have something, and it gets popular. Like, say, Pokemon cards get popular, but then you have companies like, so like for Yu-Gi-Oh, Konami decides to completely change the game, and they decide to change, like, make it completely difficult for new people to get in, and then other people make it bad for people trying to get in. Like, for Pokemon, scalpers make Pokemon cards just completely difficult for just some 12-year-old that just wants to play Pokemon cards. Like, I don't understand this idea of making entertainment for the new generation just purposefully shit. And companies are no better. They also make entertainment for the new generation shit. It's like, you can. When I grew up, this like, your parents were like, "Nah, you shouldn't play games." I was like, "Alright, we'll see." Go to a friend's house and play a game, or play fucking Yu-Gi-Oh at school. Now it's shit because no one really has want to make things good anymore, at least here in the West. And everyone, even fucking grown-ass adults that shouldn't be deep fucking with Pokemon cards, are making the Pokemon scene fucking stupid. You know, like, I don't understand why entertainment for the new generation on all sides is just being enshittified.
There is also a strong correlation between this practice and the size of the publisher, as most small studios do not engage in it, as it requires far more resources, work, and liability than they can handle. So even though this impacts a minority of games, it disproportionately affects customers due to the scale of the largest offenders. From sales figures, it impacts tens of millions of customers, minimum in the EU. This impacts developers as well. This may seem obvious, but based on interviews and feedback, we found the majority of game developers do not support having games they've worked on destroyed. They can spend years of their lives creating them, but they are often not the ones making these business decisions, and sometimes even sign non-disclosure agreements so they cannot voice their opinion on the matter. The main point I hope that does not get lost in this hearing is this initiative welcomes any solution that will solve the problem of video games being destroyed on this scale. We want this to be as easy and as practical as possible for all parties involved, and are very open to how that is achieved. We are not even asking publishers to change their business or monetization models, only that once they end support, they do so in a responsible way. Our only goal is to prohibit this destructive practice and thus obtain basic protections for consumers and the medium as a whole.
Next, I would like to address the honourable members on a huge issue that we faced during the campaign, especially the start of the campaign, the fact that the whole discussion is very unclear because the technical solutions are so difficult, and there's also a lot of pushback by the industry. So I'd like to raise to some proposals we've seen from the industry to masquerade as proposals, but are simply unrelated to our issue wholly. Some examples of these are clear labeling, minimum support times, and voluntary end-of-life plans. These are not solutions, nor are these even compromises. They do nothing to fix the problem of games being destroyed in its essence. As far as labeling goes, most customers are aware of the problem, but each game is unique creative work and technical work. There is no substitute for each one any more than a book or a piece of music can be substituted for another. Their uniqueness is the entire appeal. So customers can feel carried into license agreements they would otherwise never agree to because they have no other option if they wish to experience the game. They're
Yeah,
agreeing in.
and the problem with this is like, say again, like you said, you buy a game and they throw terms of service that is just retarded. If you say no, well, you're locked out of the game that you literally just bought. Like this is absolutely coercion, and that should absolutely be null and void. But you don't know that, and like I said, a lot of people just don't care or read the terms of service because it's a fucking video game. Like the exact same argument as to why people just don't care about this subject is the exact same argument as to why the terms of services exist. It's like, oh, we can have whatever terms of service we want. To fuck you. Yeah, it's just a game. Who the fuck cares? Well, the person fucking paying money care. The person giving you their hard-earned cash to play the game cares. Like, do you spend money frivolously on things that you don't care for? It's like, the fuck's wrong with you? It's like, it's like, yeah, I spend money on games. Okay, it's just a video game, but I like games. I enjoy games. It's my hobby, and you should respect the medium, right? Respect the gaming medium you're in, and you should respect me as a customer, even if you don't fucking care. But this is what I think they're addressing, really.
Absence of any alternative to playing games. As for minimum support times, this as for minimum support times, this is unrelated to our issue. The same goes for notices of when games being shut down. We have no problem with publishers ending support at all anytime they wish. We only ask that they do so in a responsible and reasonable way. Finally, the option of voluntary end-of-life plans is quite literally the state where we're in now. While we appreciate when this does happen, our research shows it happens only about 4 to 6% of the time, and these conditions are exactly what led to getting over 1 million EU citizens to sign the initiative itself, requesting the EU government to address the problem. Appealing to government is not our first attempt to solve this. There have been multiple attempts coordinating thousands of people to contact companies such as EA or Ubisoft, a European company from France now residing in Canada, so far as back as 2016. In every instance, there was a refusal by companies to allow customers to retain their purchase, in some cases even actively taking their games from their libraries. A statement made by the European lobby group, Video Games Europe, of which companies like EA, Ubisoft, Roblox and others, so the really big players in the video games industry here in Brussels and globally, are part of, about the movement, has said as much. They not only mischaracterized what was being asked for with endless support, something the movement has never sought, but also claimed one of the reasons for disabling customer purchases is that they represent competition to official versions. I translate this: it is a business model to shut down the game to get players to play their next game.
Yeah, and it's also copyright. Like, they don't want their games being pirated, even though obviously it will happen. Like, you'll have unofficial games, and they're like, well, I mean, if it's not getting the official patches, whatever. But the games that are getting the support and official patches from the companies is something they can just shut down at any time. And they probably consulted just lawyers that they don't really care or really know about these things, and a lot of them will. It was back to the whole pirate software situation. Like, a lot of them parrot what he said about the situation and made like separate versions of what he said about it all. Like, again, with the supporting indefinitely. Like, it's obviously unreasonable to demand complete indefinite support of a game because it does cost money to upkeep these things. But we know games, again, there are games in like Xbox Original where like Fantasy Star Online, you can play that game online to this day and people are still on that game. Like, how much do you think that costs the company? Dick all. Like, you can play, was it Battlefield 2142? Like, not the newer one, the 2008 version. Like, you can play that. Now, you need a legal copy of the game. But you can play that game to this day. How much is that costing EA? Absolutely nothing, because the fans are keeping up the servers themselves. It's the fans keeping that shit afloat. And this happens with other games as well. Like, it is, I don't want to say it's easy, but it is possible for for companies to completely drop, support of their games and people to still be able to play them regardless. Because, I mean, you took their fucking money, of course, and you're not going to give it back. So, I think they should be able to keep playing the game.
We're exclusively talking about games where official versions are disabled. In other words, the industry is claiming that customers playing old games could reduce sales for new games, thus they should be free to disable their purchase. Not only do we disagree with this reasoning, but we find this entire stance extremely customer hostile and unacceptable in regards to what the European Union outlines as its purpose and its track record of protecting its consumers and outlining clear market rules, so there is no uncertainty for companies, which could also harm innovation, especially for smaller studios. Their stance has been very consistent that customers are not entitled to keep their games purchases, nor be informed when they will be taken back from them. We're happy to work with publishers in solving this problem in any way that addresses their concerns, but there's been a flat refusal by the publishers, and I must press this. There is no monolithic industry. It is the big publishers in the most part, and even there, from Poland, GOG, the creators of Cyberpunk are an exception to this issue, large exception to this issue. We have exhausted all other avenues for trying to get this problem solved, hence why we're here today. It is our sincere hope that the honourable members and the Commission are going to be able to find reasonable solutions for all parties involved.
Yeah, it's like you extended the olive branch and be like, hey, I mean, you are kind of fucking the consumer and treating them like they're like the enemy and being hostile towards them just so you can aggressively sell the games and the product, and you're destroying games and like older games with bad. They're like, yeah, we want to do it so you can play our new game, and therefore we want to destroy the older games that you pay for, right? Like, games should be cheaper if you think about it. Like, they're not paying for supply chains and all that. Most games are digital, right? They're digital products, so they're not. But no, games are now $70 fucking dollars, and I wouldn't be surprised if they hit 80. It's like, this is a hostile environment if left alone to the companies, if left alone to EA and big publishers. So you leave the consumer no choice. Like, I don't want, new laws or anything. I mean, maybe a couple that will benefit me as a consumer, like, voiding contracts upon, initially buying the product. Like, you buy the product, then immediately you're hit with the terms of service that is shit. And if you say no, well, you already spent the money, you might, but, you're less likely to say no. Like, that's something that just should not exist. It is retarded. But, I mean, I'm just one guy. I'm pretty sure most people would think that makes sense. But that's not even really what they're asking. They're like, okay, well, y'all can do something about this in a way where it doesn't really cost y'all that much. And obviously they're like, no. And it's like, well, I guess we gotta move this up.
Thank you very much Greetings, Your Honors. Thank you for your attention. I'm Professor Alberto Hidalgo Cerezo at University San Pablo CEU, Madrid, a PhD in law, Jean Monnet professor dedicated to consumer law harmonization, especially on digital consumers. I'm a member of a European Law Institute as well, among any other associations. We're getting a little bit short on time, so I'll be fast with my intervention. Thank you. It is based on 3 basic points. First one, we've got it on the screen right now. We're seeking for a rebalance, for an adequate consumer protection in the digital single market. We are addressing what we consider an unfair practice. When a game is functional, it should not cease to function as a result of a deliberate and avoidable decision. This raises concerns on planned digital obsolescence, where products are rendered unusable despite remaining technically viable. Under the current framework, national authorities are reaching divergent solutions, which undermines legal certainty for the EU consumers and fragments the digital single market. In the lack of an action, we may end up reaching incompatible solutions among the 27 countries. There is thus a clear need for harmonizing rules, a common European approach necessary to ensure fairness and consistency. Second, please, next slide. Second, European Union as a global leader in consumer protection. Nowadays, it is almost impossible to develop as a full citizen without being a consumer, even more a digital consumer. We all buy goods and services in our daily lives, taking part in the single market with a high level of protection. In the end, it's easy to see, protecting European consumers is protecting European citizens. Primary EU law remains constant in securing a high level of protection for consumers at the maximum legislative level in the EU law. For instance, Charter of the Fundamental Rights of the European Union, Article 38, Union policies shall ensure a high level of consumer protection. Or the Treaty of Functioning of the European Union, Article 12, consumer protection requirements shall be taken into account in defining and implementing other Union policies and activities. Or 169, in order to promote the interest of consumers and to ensure a high level of consumer protection, the Union shall contribute to protecting the health, safety, and economic interest of the consumers. There's a lot more, but we're keeping it easy. What we want to stress is simple. This is a call from the primary EU law that we should not miss. Third and final, real example of the terms and conditions. Now, as proof of the problem, please, next slide. Now, as proof of the problem, here's a real case and user license agreement clause. Company, Zenimax, Bethesda. Game, Fallout 76, Clause 7, termination. Zenimax may terminate this end-user license agreement at any time, for any reason. Upon termination by Zenimax for any reason, all licenses granted in this agreement with respect to the game, blah, 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 shall immediately terminate, and you must immediately do point 1 and 2. Point 1, permanently destroying all copies of the game in your possession, and 2, removing the game client from your hard drive. We believe in the end that this practice is unfair for the European consumers and incompatible with the aforementioned articles from the primary EU law. Therefore,
yeah, and this is just a stupid rule. Like, this is clearly written. Again, this is probably like clause 7, you know, line 50 in there, especially being like, well, we can just do whatever, destroy whatever the hell we want, and you can just get the fuck over it. And you, the consumer, need to destroy all copies of the game you just bought. It's like, no. I mean, as shit as Fallout 76 is, it's like if you bought the game, you should be able to keep it. And like I said, this about Anthem. Like, you, as absolute garbage trash the game is, people bought the game and they should be able to still play it. I mean, I don't see that being unreasonable whatsoever. And again, anything less than that, and it's like, okay, so you're clearly trying to milk the consumer and treating them like this just is completely hostile to the consumers. Like, you must destroy all copies of the game. It's like, What?
We are kindly asking your owners to stop this kind of unfair practices.
And again, planned obsolescence. Like, this is the plan. It's like the point is to destroy like the games that you bought. You know, is not to have it last forever and to put into clear terms that you cannot play the game forever or the service forever. It's like, and this is why games like Pragmata or Crimson Desert or Stellar Blade are good. For whatever reason or whatever happens to the companies that make these games, you can still play those games regardless. Like, you legitimately own the game. And so, hell, even if Steam goes down for any reason, if you have the game, again, if there's a will, there's a way. I'm pretty sure there's a way you can play those games regardless.
Thank you very much for your attention.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Since we're out of time, I'm just going to say that my name is Marcin Baczyk. I'm attorney at law, president of the Intellectual Property and New Technologies section of Krakow Bar Association and member of Legal Tech Institute of the Polish National Bar Association. And I'm here to answer any legal questions, in particular these related to the intellectual property law matter. And I'd like to add that the European Union has a long-standing tradition of advocating for consumer rights. That is why, on behalf of 1.29 million of EU citizens, I ask you to grant both consumers and the cultural heritage in the form of video games to grant the protection they deserve. Thank you.
We listened to all of your arguments perfectly well, and now, of course, we have the moment for the members of the parliament to come in, ask questions, but also comment.
In my previous time as an IMCO member, I was responsible for the legislation on the right to repair. And it was just mentioned that the right to repair...
Ooh, the right to repair. This dude, oh, that is some old internet lore, right? Like, there's... Like, you act like this is with digital products. No, I mean, there's always been these stupid addendums, even with, like, consoles and phones and TVs. Like, there are interests against you, the consumer, repairing and maintaining these things. And, like, it used to get real big into, like, warranties. No one really cares for warranties about, like, these things, but they're there. Like, to my knowledge, the only things that care about warranties are, like, major company equipment. But, so things like maybe over 5, 6, 7, 8 grand of company equipment and assets. Like, maybe, like, for your car, who cares? We have insurance, you know, which completely throws the warranty out the window. But right to repair, that, like, whew, bro coming in from the sideline.
That is not the right approach to the issue at hand. Hence, I would also rephrase it, whether we do not need, in particular for software and digital content, something like a right to resurrect. That in a situation where repair cannot be done, it has to be done in a way that licensing terms and others have to be looked at once they are basically expiring because a game is dead, that we then let it resurrect and have neglected software being reactivated, and whether that is a way to look at it. Also done from a legal term, like we did it with the right to repair. Second, I was wondering whether minimum guarantee periods could help us. Consumer protection law in the EU knows 2 years minimum guarantee period. That won't help here. But we have member states like the Netherlands that have an eternal guarantee period for the functioning of a product. And when we are revising consumer protection rules and we look at minimum guarantee periods, whether the matter could also be addressed by an eternal guarantee period or a longer guarantee period for such products. Third, and that is a different mindset, I like the comparison that you made with books. and how we basically would react as citizens 1.0 if something comparable would happen to printed products.
Yeah, and again, but it's kind of, there is that distinction, right, between physical and digital products. Like, let's not pretend there isn't like that distinct wedge between there. But the fact is, does the consumer view or really care for the difference? Because I don't. Like, if I buy a game, the expectation is, again, if I'm 60, I can still play it. And that was the thing of games in the past. Like, it really boggled my fucking mind when I bought, what game did I buy? Like, Black Ops 2 on the Xbox One. I bought the physical fucking disc, but I still had to download it. Like, that really fucked with this. Like, then what the fuck did I buy? Like, what did I buy if did I buy just something that's like, oh, well, something that leads to the download of the game? It's like, that's dumb. Like, was it? No. I'm trying to think what game. I think it was Black Ops 2. But anyway, like, clearly there are ways to preserve, like, games. Like, there are the physical tab, but there's ways to preserve games in digital form, like their code. You know, it doesn't, you know, a book can, like, rot, a book can be destroyed, a book can, you know, be ill-maintained, and now you can't read it, but games don't, like, suffer that way. Like, maybe with games, the hardware changes, you know, the hardware and the software, I guess, in particular changes, like, where, like, older games can't run on, like, Windows 11 or so. But that's not really the game itself, you know, falling apart. It's everything around it that's changing and updating and all of that. So, I mean, I don't think the comparison should go anywhere. I just think we need to be a little bit more realistic, while at the same time understanding that the consumer just doesn't care about that. It's like, I buy something, I should be able to fucking keep it.
Don't we need for video games also something like a Project Gutenberg, something like a public library in which also video games are provided open access as a public service? And from that moment on, we do not look at it anymore from a private angle, but a public service angle, and that is also changing our ways of how to regulate it. Thank you.
So on the 31st of March 2026, the French consumer organization brought a legal action against Ubisoft before court, following the closure of the servers of its online racing game, The Crew. And
the thing is with The Crew is, there was a single online component, but the entire rest of the game was single player. Like, you didn't have, and you could turn the online off. But whenever they shut down the servers, they shut down the entire game. And this is what made people like, what the hell? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Why on earth would you do that? It just didn't make sense.
Lateral decision rendered the game completely unusable, depriving consumers of any use of a game that they had already purchased, without ever having been informed of any expiration date, to put it this way. Will the Commission consider supporting the case on the side of the consumer organization and support a referral to the Court of Justice of the European Union to ask for clarifications on the Unfair Contract Terms Directive, which the Commission previously identified was unclear in situations where a game is unilaterally rendered unusable by the video game publisher? And furthermore, many major video game titles have met the same fate, including Anthem and Concord, leaving European consumers with no recourse. And will the Commission commit to addressing this issue, the issue raised by the...
Now, Anthem was kind of muddy, but in the case of Concord, the game only lasted a couple months. there is no reason why they couldn't get a refund for that game. Like why people couldn't just get refund. There's no reason why people couldn't just play the game, even if you use shitty NPCs. Like this would be the cop out for a lot of like services. You have just sort of a bare bones single player, or well, I say it could be bare bones. I'd rather have a good single player component that even if the servers go down, or at least you have the single player and that's fine. I mean, I'm one of the idiots that didn't actually really care for the multiplayer of like Call of Duty or of like Halo. I mean, it was there and I played it with people. But to me, the meat of the game was the single player, was the artistic expressions and the stories of these games. The multiplayer was just an additive.
Stop Destroying Video Games European Citizens Initiative through the Digital Fairness Act later this year? And if not, what assurances can the Commission give that this issue will be addressed through legislative action? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm not usually in any of these committees, but I thought to come for the side quest. It is dangerous to go alone into the digital future without clear consumer protections, and I don't want to set the world on fire, but the truth is that the way we own media has shifted into something that's very sus. Too often, citizens buy a game only to find out that the cake is a lie. You buy a game you hope to cherish for years, but then one day it's suddenly gone. You think, shit, here we go again. When a publisher...
This dude is staring daggers into this woman. Now, granted, cringe millennial humor, but it's like she's not wrong.
Pulls the plug, we realize that our princess is in another castle. Our libraries are emptied. It's like we've died of dysentery. As we've heard, currently players are forced to see the purchases that they made completely vanish. We should not have to endure and survive a marketplace where our purchases, which are often masterpieces and they bring so much joy, are treated as disposable. We cannot allow digital preservation to take an arrow to the knee. So a petition was started to address...
Then again, that's the thing, right? Like, I get it. Games are products. Gotta make money, this, that, and the other. But I should be able to keep the fucking thing I bought. Like, this should be the bare minimum standard. You buy something, you keep it. But then you go into services and things get purposefully muddied. And no one actually really wants to build new precedent over this because lawmakers that are like in their fucking 70s don't want to have to do anything about it. You know, they want to keep the laws, which is made by people in the 1870s, and not add anything. And again, technology is ever shifting, and I think legality kind of got to shift with it to an extent.
Address all of these issues, and it is super effective. Let us therefore congratulate over 1 million citizens who signed it.
This dude took that last one personally. Like,
one
bro.
clear message to the EU. Don't be sorry, be better. It's time to finish the fight. We must ensure that even when companies move on, the virtual worlds we paid for remain still alive. Let us praise the sun on a new era of digital rights so that for the gamer of the future, it isn't simply game over. If some colleagues think that I've lost my mind a little bit, these were all video game references. I just wanted to thank the petitioners and say that the Greens EFA group stands here in support and hope that the Commission takes seriously these very practical suggestions that you brought today. Thank you.
I feel so old, I didn't understand your references.
Yeah, that's what I mean, right? There are people who don't actually really understand games. I mean, I'm not shitting on her in particular, but you have lawmakers, these people that don't really understand the things they're legislating over, but they still want to legislate over it. And this is kind of the thing about, like, you know, people holding offices, like, in states. It's like, clearly the mailman in Illinois knows a lot more about, you know, the mailing services than some dude who has never really did a route of mailing in his life. but he happened to have enough nepotism to get him in that position, and now he's there. And it's not like just he's doing bad or in particular. It's that how could he possibly understand outside of what people told him?
An IP right holder is free to commercialize their IP for as long as they want. This is related to how long they want to make profit out of an intellectual property. This is making the following actions: reproduction, this is selling copies, distribution, communication to the public, etc. The consumer is not affected, as the consumer doesn't make reproductions, distribution, communication to the public, etc. He just paid the full price and plays the game. That's all. He doesn't use IP rights. Anyway, IP law is not absolute, we must remind, and I quoted Article 12, consumer protection requirements shall be taken into account in defining and implementing other union policies and activities. That includes IP as well. We're only asking to not destroy. A consumer keeping her own book open game doesn't hurt IP rights, given the fact that he paid a full price for the game in the first place, fulfilling the very goal of IP, which is making profit. That's all. Thank you.
If you wouldn't mind, I would now answer the question regarding the high cost of offline patches and curb.
That might make this a part two. It's getting kind of late here. Look, I work a job now. I can't just, I'll do the other half another time. But hey, it's been real and it's been fun. Peace out.